Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 9 o'clock service here at Washington Heights. We're so glad you're here. Let me add my happy Mother's Day to all of the moms who are here or watching online or wherever you might be. Just a couple things before we jump into the message. One is, if you're new here today, we're so glad you're here, and we would invite you to take a step in the direction of getting connected and just kind of breaking this big room down so it feels more personal and more like family. And right after the service, my wife and I will be right off the platform here. We call it our meet and greet area. We would love to spend just a couple minutes with you and get to know you on a first name basis. And you know, we encounter a lot of folks who are just on a faith journey, just exploring and understanding who the God of the Bible is. And there are questions that come along with that, a lot of good questions. And if you've ever wondered, where can I take those? Where can I ask those? There's an opportunity coming up here real soon, and it is called Starting Point, and it's a conversation about faith. And you can either scan that QR code really quickly, or there's a QR code on the back of the chair in front of you, and you can scan it there. One of the options that'll drop down is the chance to be a part of Starting Point. So we would just encourage you to engage those questions, come and ask them, and discover who our great God is. So today we're going to talk about honoring the women in your life, and certainly we're going to be talking about moms, but we're in a series right now called Proverbs, and we're looking at something called Learning Curve, and Proverbs addresses this, and not just to moms, it addresses all women. And wherever you might be, young and old and moms or not moms, it is all of you. And so today, I hope that all of us, and maybe especially us guys, and guys, I might cue us along the way. There are going to be some opportunities to earn some brownie points along the way, okay, by agreeing with what the Bible's talking about here. I'll cue you, all right, so that you know when that comes. And hopefully today, ladies, whoever you might be, that you will be encouraged, and that we will have a better understanding of what the Bible says we need to honor, to recognize, to see in the hearts and lives of the women around us. Now, you may know that a number of years ago, the Dove Company did a campaign called True Beauty. And they were looking at the difference between the way that people often, and especially women, often see themselves versus the way that everybody else sees them. And we're trying to level that out a little bit and give a more accurate understanding to people. And I want to show you a video here in just a minute. It's a couple minutes long. And this is a part of their campaign where ladies came in and described themselves to one of those sketch artists, you know, the people who work for the police and go, what did he look like? And they draw those kind of pictures. Well, they're describing themselves. And then there are some people who met them, and they also get to describe that lady to the sketch artist, and you get to see that comparison side by side. So check this out.
I'm a forensic artist. Worked for the San Jose Police Department from 1995 to 2011.
I showed up to a place I'd never been, and there was a guy with a drafting board.
We couldn't see them, they couldn't see us.
Tell me about your hair.
I didn't know what he was doing, but then I could tell after several questions that he was drawing me.
Tell me about your chin.
It kind of protrudes a little bit, especially when I smile.
Your jaw.
My mom told me I had a big jaw.
What would be your most prominent feature?
I kind of have a fat, rounder face.
The older I've gotten, the more freckles I've gotten.
I would say I have a pretty big forehead.
Once I get a sketch, I say thank you very much, and then they leave. I don't see them.
All I had been told before the sketch was to get friendly with this other woman, Chloe.
Today I'm going to ask you some questions about a person you met earlier, and I'm going to ask you some general questions about their face.
She was thin, so you could see her cheekbones. And her chin, it was a nice, thin chin.
She had nice eyes. They lit up when she spoke.
Cute nose.
She had blue eyes, very nice blue eyes.
So here we are. This is the sketch that you helped me create. And that's a sketch that somebody described of you.
So yeah, that's...
She looks closed off and fatter, sadder too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
I should be more grateful of my natural beauty. It impacts the choices and the friends that we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts everything. It couldn't be more critical to your happiness.
Do you think you're more beautiful than you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time as women analyzing and trying to fix the things that aren't quite right. And we should spend more time appreciating the things that we do like.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? And here's what we're going to look at today, is that the Bible, and especially now in the book of Proverbs, it's going to zero in on the things that we should honor and recognize. And here's my fear. We live in a time and in a culture where I think, especially us guys, know what we're supposed to notice about women. And yet God sees something entirely different. And my hope and my prayer is that for all of us, whether you're a lady and you have that self-understanding, even as you might describe yourself now, that maybe by the time we're done, it would be a little bit different. And that for all of us, we could recognize what the Bible would call true beauty, and especially how God sees you. Because you are who God says that you are. So we're going to be in Proverbs 31, and my guess is if you've been around church for a while and you know what's in Proverbs 31, there might be some people, especially ladies, who go, oh no, not Proverbs 31. Because I know what's in there, and this is the way that it's often portrayed, the way it's described, the way it's put out there. It goes something like this. Here's another guy, another man, teaching about a bar for women to achieve, and it's an endless and impossible list of things. There's like this description of a superwoman that nobody could ever measure up to, and I come away with that just feeling defeated and down. It's like having a report card, and my grade is not that great. Well, that's not correct. When we understand the context of Proverbs 31, I think we come to a different place of understanding, because you know what? It's not the words of a man. These are not even the words that come out of the mouth of God. They're actually the words of a woman. They're the words of a mother to her son, trying to teach him about what to honor, what to recognize in the lives and in the hearts of the women that are around him. And so the first thing we got to understand about Proverbs 31 is it's written by a mother to her son. These are the words of a woman. Check this out in verse 1. The sayings of King Lemuel, an inspired utterance. In other words, this is something that has come from God's direction. His mother taught him. And so this is a mom's word. And this is what to honor. And so much of Proverbs was this guidebook to train and to teach young men how to become real men. And so here's a mom's word talking to her son about what to see, what to recognize in the women around him. The second thing that's part of the context of Proverbs 31 is that it's an acrostic poem. And so an acrostic, right, there's a letter that starts each of the lines and it kind of spells something out. And, I came across, a couple of kids' acrostic poems, and they do this in school a lot of times, mommy. And every one of those letters in this boy's, acrostic poem was about food. Right? M is for the meals that she cooks, and O is for the oatmeal that she makes, and M is for the meat that she makes, and M is for more meals that she makes, and Y is for the yummy stuff she puts in my tummy. And so that's how an acrostic poem works. Well, there are 23 letters in the Hebrew alphabet in Proverbs 31. So much of it is this acrostic, and each of the letters begins a line from a mom to her son about what to honor in the lives and the hearts of the women around him. So it is not tasks, but this is qualities to honor. This is not, all right, you better get busy and you better get a good night's sleep because there's a lot of things that you have to do. And so this is not what you need to do every day, ladies, and this is every person needs to exemplify all of these things. It is descriptive across a whole spectrum. And so when we understand the context, hopefully it changes that perception that this is not about a report card and about you getting a grade. Instead, it is about what it is that you do on a regular basis and what the rest of us need to honor and to recognize. So let's jump into it. The first thing that Proverbs 31 tells us is honor character. Honor her character. Take a look at verse 10. A wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. And when we think noble character, we often might think, well, that's good character, somebody who's nice. It's a whole lot more than that. Some synonyms for the words noble could be powerful, strong, virtuous. The Bible over and over again recognizes and honors strength in women. And there are a number of examples in the Bible of strong women who are celebrated. There's a woman who was a sister of Moses. Her name is Miriam. And she was a great leader alongside Moses. And one of her songs even makes it into the Bible. It's a song that just honors God. There's Deborah in the book of Judges, and she was a general who led an army into battle and was extremely wise and celebrated for it. In the New Testament, Mary Magdalene is the first woman who sees the resurrected Jesus and understands what it means that he has come back from the dead. And of course, there is Mary, the mother of Jesus, strong over and over again, even there as Jesus suffers and dies on a cross while all his disciples have fled away. There's a woman named Priscilla in the book of Acts, and she's one of the greatest teachers in the New Testament. And some scholars even believe that she wrote the book of Hebrews. We don't know exactly for sure, but we do know that she had a profound impact in some of the early days of what we're doing right now by influencing and teaching some of the people around her, men and women. So, honor character, strength, and power. And if you wonder how much really is a mom worth, well, there's actually a website called salary.com who tries to put a figure on this, a financial figure. And they look at what moms do and they think about being a housekeeper and a cook and doing daycare and being a driver and a janitor and part-time CEO in that, and take some of this understanding of all of those responsibilities, and they try to put a number around it. Can you guess what number in the year 2026 goes in that blank? How much is a mom worth? Why don't you turn next to somebody next to you and see if you can guess what it is? All right, you get it? Here's the answer. A mom right now is worth $184,820. And my wife is cheering like crazy. No, I'm just kidding. Right? It's a lot. And yet, the verse tells us that they are worth far more than rubies. I just checked out this last week. What's the most expensive ruby that has ever been sold? $34.8 million in 2023. And you are worth more than that. And men, honor her character. That's right. That's right. Chance to get some brownie points. Okay, honor also her sacrifice, we find in Proverbs 31. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. And so she gets up, early in the morning, and then you jump down to verse 18. Her lamp does not go out at night, and so she's up late at night. And this is the part that I think women often hate because it looks like it's just this unrealistic thing. She gets up while it's still dark. She's awake until, all hours of the night. She basically never sleeps. But this is not saying, and this is what you need to do. What this is doing is just simply describing reality of what life is often like. So this is not, you should do this. It's more just, this is the way it is. And when you see it, it's easy to overlook it. And so when you see it, honor it. Because often in the heart of women, what God has placed is just this natural desire to sacrifice for people around her. This is going to be my first Mother's Day without my mom. Lost her in January, and I can think back to hundreds of examples of how she sacrificed for us. I see it many times over in the life of my wife as well, for me and for our kids and beyond. I can remember one story in particular that just jumped out to me this last week. When I was a little kid, I was homesick one day, and most people hate snakes. I actually don't hate snakes. I kind of am very intrigued by them and think they're interesting. Well, I had that all the way back when I was a kid. So my mom is out and she's bringing home some food. Well, she comes across this snake. We had a lot of garter snakes around that area, and she hated snakes. She caught this garter snake and brought it to me when I was staying home, and brought it inside the house because she thought it would kind of brighten my day a little bit. And she hands me the snake in the kitchen area, and it wiggles and drops to the ground and disappears under the cabinets. And that snake was never seen again. But I can tell you this, you never walked up to that cabinet the same way again. You were like, nope, not today. I have no idea where that thing happened. You know what I remember that day as I dropped that snake and it disappeared, and now it was in our house for everybody to be terrorized by? I remember the hug. After the spanking and the screaming and all of that, there was a hug. No, I'm just kidding. But that is just the heart, right? Is to sacrifice for people you care about. And that is something God has hardwired into the hearts of ladies. And men, when you see it, honor it. That was a chance. Honor, sacrifice. She considers a field and buys it out of her earnings. She plants a vineyard. So here she's into real estate. So this is a lady who's working outside of the home as well. And so you don't see this picture, in the Bible that this is what you have to do all the time, is be in the kitchen and doing all of this. You see strength, you see skills, you see capabilities that are even being used in all kinds of different ways. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her task. And the Bible celebrates strength in the hearts and lives of women. She sees that her trading is profitable. And so here she's a businesswoman, and apparently she's being very successful with putting those skills and abilities to work. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. And what that allows her to do is to make an impact even in the well-being of the people who are around her. And so honor her sacrifice. Also honor generosity, the generosity you see in her life. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. And so when we see compassion on full display, and again, it seems as though God has hardwired compassion into the hearts of ladies. And when you see it, honor it, recognize it, celebrate it. There's actually some study around this in the Center for Philanthropy at Indiana University. Women across nearly every income level gave significantly more to charity than men, nearly twice as much in some cases. And actually, there was something that kind of did it by age bracket, and older ladies gave consistently 89% more than older men. You know what that tells us? old men are cheap, is what it tells us. But typically they give double, and it's just natural for them to do that. When you see her generosity, honor it. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. And scarlet, anything with color back in those days, was really expensive. And we wonder, generosity, was it really generous, to kind of take care of yourself? And we see that word household in there. But in those days, a household included not just her own family, but it would include the slaves and the workers who were there. And so when it's talking about this, it's talking about caring for people on a broader spectrum than just her own. So another way we could put this is she is a generous boss. She is a good tipper. If you take mom out today or you guys go out, for lunch, don't be cheap. Tip well, because generosity is something that God honors. Honor true beauty. And what does that look like? And I'm going to invite you to say these words in yellow. They're going to be on the next couple of screens here. Say them out loud with me. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. So she is strong. There is an ambiance around her of dignity, and she also can roll with the punches in life. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. And so this is talking about the kind of beauty that isn't, made up. It's not temporary. It's not something that ebbs and flows through life. This is the kind of beauty that lasts, no matter whether somebody's young or in middle age or older. This is a beauty that always plays in this world. And so here is Lemuel's mom saying to her son, notice this. And notice these. These are the things and the values that last. And he's also teaching a woman how to see herself. Because we live in a time and in a culture where we're taught to notice certain things about women as men. And may God help us to have this kind of lens on, to see what God sees and to honor the values that he values. Honor her, right? Proverbs 31:28, her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. I think this is a verse that tells us Mother's Day is a biblical thing here, because to recognize that as something that's been around a long time. This was written 3,000 years ago. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. And isn't that really what the opportunity, even on this day, is all about? And charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. And we go, charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting. Don't misunderstand this. This is not saying, hey, you know what? Your best days are behind you, but hey, you're kind of religious, so happy Mother's Day. That's not what this is saying. When it says charm is deceptive, what it's saying is, sometimes what we have on the surface level is not the real you. The real you is inside of your heart and inside of your mind. And also your beauty is fleeting. Would anybody be willing to acknowledge, what? I'm not what I used to be in terms of all of that. That's just the human experience. But this is saying that there is something so much deeper and so much more lasting and so much more better than just what we see on the outside. But then we look at it and we go, but a woman who fears the Lord, we're talking about being afraid of God. And what does it mean for us to fear the Lord? And this is a consistent theme throughout the book of Proverbs. It's encouraged for all people, men and women alike. And what it means to fear the Lord is to have awe and respect and a sense of astonishment at how great and how good God is. And there's even a picture here that the more that we do that with God, you know what it makes us in this life? Fearless about the opinions of others. That when we understand who God is and how great he is and how much he has reached down into our lives to honor us and offer us his grace and his love, it makes us fearless more and more to the opinions of the people around us. and maybe to the social media expectations that we may come across day by day, because we are called to honor what God honors. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her work bring her praise at the city gate. So you see honor and you see praise in this verse. And in this context here, it's really inviting us to see that the city gate is a public place. In the cities, the towns at those times, there was always a place where the people would gather. And it's where the crowds were, it's where the masses were, it's where the people were. And as people gathered there, this picture is telling us, honor the ladies in public. Honor them in the town square. Honor them before others. Just kind of go public with that. And the word praise in this actually comes from the Hebrew word halal. What does halal mean? Halal literally means to make a show, to boast, to rave and shout. And so, if that is what the book of Proverbs tells us to do, I'm wondering today if this might not be a good opportunity to do that, to have a rave at church, a halal. All right, but we're going to rave, men, about the ladies, okay? So ladies, you stay seated. Men, I'm going to invite you to stand, and would you rave over the ladies here in these moments and just celebrate them? Give a shout. A shout. And that's how you do it. Good job, guys. You finally showed up. I'm proud of you. Proud of you there. You had opportunities. You took that one. That's awesome. And ladies, we should do that more. You know, there's a picture that Jesus gives us one day, because as we talk about that kind of love, even, where does it come from? And one day in Jesus' time here in this world, he is coming to the city of Jerusalem, and it's going to be the time when he will allow himself to be sacrificed on a cross. And as he overlooks Jerusalem, he says these words here. And it really is the heart of God that is expressed with this sort of picture of a mother hen. And it's God's desire to really draw each and every one of us close. And Jesus says, I have longed to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings. And so no matter who you are, no matter what this day holds for you, just know that God longs to bring you into the protective reach of his care. And today you might be grieving. Maybe for you, it's like me, the first Mother's Day, you won't be able to make that call or make that visit. Or maybe today you're not going to be honored. You should be, but you won't be. And God sees you and longs to draw you under his wings. And maybe today you don't have kids. Maybe you can't have kids, and that breaks your heart. And God sees you. Maybe you're not married yet. You want to be, but you're not, and God sees you. And wherever you might be, there is a God who longs to draw you close and to bring you under his care. God's love reaches out to you. And just as Manny said before, even in the service, God sees you. And just know where God's heart is for you. Because you know what the reality is? You are who God says you are. And so today, if you had, been given that opportunity, how would you describe yourself? And I think for many of us, it's so easy to focus on the flaws, to focus on the mistakes, to focus on the past, to focus on all the things we got wrong. And God sees all of that, but in a relationship with him. Do you know what he calls us? He calls us a whole group of different words and pictures. And if you're a lady, he calls you his daughter. And if you're a guy, he calls you his son. He calls you his beloved. He calls you cherished. And so how do you see yourself? And I hope and I pray that more and more we could see ourselves through the lens that God sees, that we would honor and recognize what God honors and what he values. Because so often our culture and God's perspective are not the same. And so where do we lean into? And in the book of Proverbs, again, wisdom is called this path. And on a path, we walk in a direction. And day by day, as we take that journey together with God and we lean into more of his perspective, more of his understanding, more of his truth, we gain a more accurate picture of the way things really are. And so may we walk the path of wisdom and discover so much of the life that's on the other side of that path. And as we increasingly get to a destination, we discover that, we live in a time and place, and that's good. I mean, we're even here at this time by God's design. But may we also live with an increasing perspective of what God sees and what God recognizes and what God honors. So we're going to give an opportunity to do this. Today, right outside these back doors, if you head straight out the back and make a left, there's a table there and it's got some purple tablecloths on it, and there's hundreds of cards on there. And if you went shopping for a card, for Mother's Day, like I did at 8:15 this morning. No, I'm just kidding. I got that done earlier in the week. But even if you have a card for mom, is there another lady in your life that you could encourage, that you could write a card to and maybe recognize one of the things that we've talked about? And maybe just write a note of encouragement. And it doesn't have to be today. Maybe it's this coming week. Maybe it's somebody you work with. Maybe it's somebody in your neighborhood. Maybe it's somebody in your school. And just write a note of encouragement to someone, sharing some of the perspective that comes through the lens of what God sees, of what God sees in you, because you are who God says that you are. I'm going to invite you to stand together with me. I'm going to pray, and we will be dismissed. And so, Lord Jesus, on this day, we just thank you for the opportunity that we have to recognize, to honor, to see what you see. And God, may that more and more define the lives that we live. And especially as we engage with each other, talk to each other, and God, just do life together. God, may there be more of an understanding, more of a recognition of what matters to you. And God, help us to see that in others, to bring it out in others, and just speak those words of encouragement. Because when we do, we are really just expressing the heart of God. And so help us to do that in a way that encourages the people around us and honors you as well. And so we give you the honor that you deserve on this day. And we ask and pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.